Hi, this is Carl Palachuk. Welcome to another SMB Community Podcast. I'm joined today by my good friend, Harry Brelsford from SMB Nation. Welcome, sir.
Hey, hello.
So, we haven't chatted in a while. What's new with you and SMB?
Man, there's a lot going on. So Mama Bear got spring cleaning-itis, and I think it was from watching like Fixers and Flippers on HGTV. And you buy the rundown
systems, huh?
Yeah, you buy the rundown rental and you spruce it up and flip it. We're not doing that. But she has had me marching a plumber, an electrician, a handyman, and then myself, right? I'll tell you, brother, this lifting, this is real work, being a fixer and a flipper. So right. I've been doing some fix and flipping on the house. And again, for no other reason than it's springtime and the kids are gone. It's time to clean it up. So that's maybe on the personal front. On the business front, a couple of exciting things. So we have our MSP Tech Talk spring quarter coming up starting in like April 11th. You're certainly familiar with the format, Carla, but for those that aren't, we're trying to have real content, right? A online mini, MBA would be a stretch, but real content over 6 weeks, typically Wednesdays at noon, and we have real speakers and speakers you may not have heard of. So, for example, next quarter, shout out to cryptocurrency and blockchain. And the idea is blockchain is coming, and MSPs, you at least need to know the definition of it, right? As a security paradigm. And so we think we're on target, and then we've left a few topics behind, Carl. So we've, for now, paused on mergers and acquisitions. We paused on Office 365. You know how it goes. So been there, done that, okay?
So what's the MSP play for blockchain and cryptocurrency other than being an investor?
No, I would say, first of all, the two guests are actually MSPs. So Matt Anderson on cryptocurrency has a side hustle mining Bitcoin. Oh. And I thought that's very interesting because our audience is very curious. So if for no other reason than it's a hobby, it's a side hustle, right? It's something, and hopefully we're promoting learning, right? Learning, knowledge is power. So learning is good. And then the play is, I always chalk it up to what the VCs like to say is, we don't know what we don't know, right? You better at least get your head into these areas for about 90 minutes and call it good.
Right.
But, blockchain is a security paradigm that is coming, right? To keep, where the ledgers in balance.
Well, and it's such an interesting thing because we're entering this era where there's decentralized authority. Blockchain allows you and me to have a transaction, put all of the details into the blockchain, encrypt it, and the government is out of the picture, right? So it's really interesting. And banks too. Banks are using it.
No, I know. And Carl, maybe to wrap on that would be, I wake up, I start my day thinking about the SMB Nation audience and how we can make them that overused phrase, trusted business advisor, right? So got it on the engineering side, guys. I got it. You don't necessarily need my help on engineering, okay? Although I am wearing the Cal Poly aeronautical engineering shirt out of respect to my son, okay, who is an engineer. So it's Cal Poly Day, but that's kind of where we land with that. Next topic, Carl. Behind me, that is the 2003 original SMB Nation banner. And as part of Mama Bear having me do fixers and flippers and cleanup, I've come across some really juicy old stuff. Maybe on Facebook you saw me put up a modem, an old-timey modem. And I mean, it really brings back memories. But this banner was this was our original logo. It was the 2003 Fall Conference in Indianapolis. Of course, I created it just days before the conference. That's how we rolled. Erica and Scott Colson. Erica created that. So shout out to Erica. Final update. on the SMB Nation front would be I have just confirmed my attendance next week, so I will be at IBM Think. And IBM is well known for AI and analytics and Watson, so I'm pretty excited. I've gone 5 times. Little twist. I've gone 5 times to the IBM Partner World Conference, and that conference is now merged with Think. Okay, so it's now much, much bigger, right. and we're kind of over here. Okay, we're kind of over in a wing.
So they've been marketing to the SMBs. I mean, to me, right? They've been marketing to small IT providers, saying you should partner with IBM and get rich on the Internet of Things. So
I could see that. Yeah, I'm not connected with that group, but I believe it. So folks, if you're in Vegas next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, then Thursday is the SUSE, the Open Source Server Conference in Seattle. And then Carl, finally tomorrow, if anyone's in Seattle, I'm going to be at a conference called Snowflake Data Nation. So Snowflake is a big data ISV. Oh. It's also a name for Bainbridge Island liberals and Pacific Northwest liberals, but that's not the context. But Data Nation at the Fairmont tomorrow, Thursday the 15th in Seattle. Sir, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Very good. So you'll give me a link for the webinars. So we do your quarterly catch-up and make sure everybody is aware of that. So we will post that. Very cool. So I know that you were looking at big data and analytics. So what's your update on that?
Well, a couple of things. I have, and it's on my LinkedIn profile, folks, and I have commenced my 2-year journey with the Microsoft Professional certification. Now, this is different than the MCSE and other technical certifications we know and love. Carl, this is what you got involved in a year ago, the degree. Yeah, and they've rebranded it. You may recall, I think I chatted with you offline, but there's actually, in my eyes, there's a problem calling that a degree when it's not from an accredited university. Right. Yeah. And so they have probably not based on my recommendation. Smart people figured it out on their very own, but it's now a professional certificate. Carl, it's an earned certificate, right? It's not an honorary certificate. And I'm going to take 2 years. So it's 10 classes, and it's over anywhere from 12 to 30 hours per course. So I'm going to do 1 per quarter because I live in the real world, right? I got to fix and flip, man. And
is it timed? So like there's a limited time once you start?
Yeah. So, and it starts quarterly, like an academic quarter. So I will technically crack the digital book open in April and do my first class. Now, Carl, I'm doing big data. Okay. There is data science, which is what I believe you signed up for, which, I'm not that smart. And then there's there's DevOps. Okay. And again, I'm not that smart, but big data is really close to, I got SQL Server certified in the late 90s because my employer, Clark Nuber, was a Great Plains Dynamics accounting system reseller. And Carl, that's right when they were leaving NetWare and Beachreef, right? And they went over to Windows NT Server and SQL, a thing called back office. Kids won't get that. So I got SQL certified. Someone had to do it, right? And when I looked over the curriculum, I'm like, yeah, I got this. Yeah, tables, rows, columns, pointers. I got it. It'll be a refresh almost 20 years later. But Carl, what I want to really emphasize, and I have a blog up right now on smbnation.com about this decision. I call it Harry's new side hustle. But what I want to emphasize is I guess I feel the strongest way to be a community leader is to lead by example. Right, dude, I'm doing it. Okay. And I still do the work of the Jesus, as they say. And I hope I always do. You know what I mean? I get frustrated by people, in our generation who are senior professionals, and they kind of refer out the corporate types, and yeah, here, I'll send you a link. And go do it. And it's like, no, man, you do it.
Well, it is interesting because you have pushed education from day one, like as a core piece of what SMB Nation stands for and what you do personally. And I just find it really interesting that 20 years ago, 15 years ago, everybody bought the big fat books. Everybody had a bookshelf behind them filled with books. And today, the books are much smaller, and I think a lot of people don't buy them at all. They're like, you know what? I'll just go online. I'll look for a YouTube video, and then they want to know why they can only charge $40 an hour.
Exactly. The whole life learner thing. Mama Bear said it makes me more handsome to be a life learner, like I'm out there improving myself, and somehow that reflects on my physical appearance. And so, whatever motivates you, brother, whatever motivates you.
So is that all?
That's one update. And then the other would be, a year ago, you and I spoke. I still got the link up at smbnation.com under Pivot. So we came to market a year ago, and Carl, we ultimately came to market. At the end of the day, we were silent. We came to market with a marketing as a service play called Pivot, and we just kind of chugged along. Quite frankly, we just didn't have the product mix quite right. This is a funny game because I have a competitive spreadsheet, and there's 25 people that provide this type of service, right? You're going to go to an MSP. We're going to do your newsletter. We're going to do your tweets. We're going to do your LinkedIn post. We're going to do your Facebook post. We do all this for a monthly fee. And that's a crowded field. I was surprised, but
there's 25 people doing that.
25 entities on my list, names that you and I both know, and then some that aren't as well known. I'll give you an example. A name from yesteryear was Joshua Feinberg, who wrote one of the early small business server books in the late 90s. Back in the day, I had conversations with him because it was, author to author, right? It's a pretty small club. And he's got SP solution provider something. I think he uses like a baseball paradigm, a little bit like Coach Stu. Remember when Coach Stu had spring training in Phoenix a few years ago? It's a little bit along those lines. He uses a sports analogy or sports paradigm, but that's how I get to 25. I mean, literally, when you actually just kind of ask people who they're using and why and how, and by the way, the MSPs I talk to they're not completely unhappy with the people they're using, right? Which is also why we decided to rejigger a little bit. Because we're kind of like, okay, well, if you're not unhappy, and we got 24 competitors, so what we did, and we're launching in Q2, so more to come, but we're working with, and a couple of my competitors do this. I'd like to say I stole the idea, but the idea just kind of came to me. But we're working with a couple of ISVs. And what the ISVs are saying is that we need this marketing motion to make our existing partners more productive, right? Today, Carl, the landscape's changed for SMB Nation where, technically our SIC code is media company. And a media company is good at lead generation, right? Like, Ford trucks, and you see the ad and you become a lead to go buy a Ford truck. Right. That's not really the overriding need in the MSP community today, because you have some well-entrenched ISVs, again, names you and I both know. They have their partner base. Okay, they earn the right to that. They went to a lot of shows and collected a lot of cards and built up their partner base. And now what they're saying is they need to motivate, for lack of a better word, right? I just wish we could motivate our existing partners. And so we come along and say, well, we're quite frankly, we're a little different in that we're a 19-year-old publisher, and publishers have always gone through these kind of campaign motions, right? I mean, I've got HootSuite's interface memorized, right? I mean, and so it's clear that on the MSP side, that's not a good use of time to become a HootSuite ninja.
Right, exactly.
That's what we do. We're a publisher, and then with publishing comes a corpus of data. And so I think I told you in a side conversation once that I went to SurveyMonkey, and over these, I probably used SurveyMonkey, well, since 2003, the first conference, but we're up over 900 surveys. Okay, so we have a lot of information about this audience. And so the ISVs are saying, help, yes, you have some outside expertise. And a simple example with one is, boy, this almost gets us into the kind of my core thing about analytics, but let's go there. Carl, when you and I have talked in the past, we've talked about predictive analytics, which is like the heat map on CNBC, red light, green light when the stock's open. And we're looking for, that's what I would call custom audience creation. Now that's more recruiting. Okay, like, Jameson West is a green light, and we want 10,000 Jameson West. Give me every lookalike. Right. So I would call that predictive analytics, right? And Jameson West owns a home. Woohoo! That good. Home ownership, good. And that's more predictive, and that's where my heart is. But Carl, when you get post-acquisition and you're working with an ISV who's trying to motivate their partners, then I actually am switching over to another paradigm called rules-based scoring, and that's behavioral. Okay, so it's all math, but that's not as much math as predictive. And behavioral, the simple answer to that is behavioral rules-based scoring is Nutrisystems. Okay, you get 100 points a day, and so you got to, take 10 points for a cookie, but a carrot's only 1 point. So you can eat 100 carrots or you can eat 10 cookies. Okay, but you only get 100 points a day. That's rules-based scoring. And so then we start to look at, for that particular ISV, we're essentially going to engage in a data science exercise. So, give me your top performers, give me, we call those converters, give me non-converters, because I need to know what non-performers look like, and then hold back a test set, right? So hold back almost like a truth test, right? Once we develop the rules that a master's degree is 15 points, a member of ASCII is 5 points, whatever. You go to you get 2 points if you go to a workshop. But you see, and of course, I'm not going to give away the secret sauce, but those are custom algorithms, right? We have to look at their partners, and we have to look at a lot of different attributes is what they're technically called. You might call it variables, but we have to look at all these attributes. And then I guess our unique value proposition, not that you can't do behavioral-based, rules-based scoring, because that's essentially what Marketo and HubSpot and the others are doing. Like, download white paper is 5 points.
Right.
But I guess what we're selling is expertise, right? That dude, you can hire any major law firm, right? You can do an IPO. You can hire any law firm. Why did you pick Perkins Coie, right? I mean, Bogle and Gates could do it too, right? That's the conversation we want to have, right? Is you're hiring hopefully reputation. You trust us. We have expertise, and we're just going to stick to the knitting on that one and try and play in a relatively crowded field. And Carl, we're not trying to take over the world. We're just trying to provide a service that people will buy.
Right. So you're going to help MSPs find clients based on predictive analytics or the scoring, lead scoring.
Yeah.
So not predictive, but just the quantitative.
Right. And it's all analytics. It's all analytics, behavioral, predictive, animal learning. I have a blog up on animal learning as to why dogs have lived.
It used to be that you would say, I have this geographic location and I want to be in every newspaper, and then services came out and said, well, nobody buys the newspaper anymore, so we're gonna put this in the mailbox of everybody who doesn't subscribe to the newspaper. But it was trying to get those flyers in somebody's hand.
Right.
So this is doing an equivalent thing online, but it seems like it's much harder today because it's harder to break through the noise. Yeah,
it is. I mean, I'll tell you, I probably get, in fact, if it's, I have 5 cool tools I want to talk to you about, so I could weave that. Or
sure,
if
you got 10 minutes.
Fasten your seatbelt, and we're going to talk about 5 cool tools. Carl, that's 2 minutes a tool, because it gets to one of my points. I'm actually going to go to tool number 2. I'm going to just go out of order over here on another screen, but LinkedIn. And so obviously LinkedIn is a powerful search engine, and only getting better, right? With Sales Navigator, if you show the love and pay $100 a month, you can do that. We can do that for you. But the point I want to make about noise is, it's surprising how my LinkedIn messages probably have a higher penetration rate than just an email. You know what I mean? For some reason, or a Facebook message, right? Or God forbid, an Instagram message. And then way down on the list, Carl, is telephony or phone calls, right? The noise. God bless call centers. But with the spoofing of phone numbers and the bogus calls.
If people take my advice, they never answer their phone, so it doesn't matter who's calling. You're never going to get.
I know. You never answer my call, Carl. Another cool. So LinkedIn, cool tool. Okay. Another cool tool is SurveyMonkey. And again, just if you can think of, and this might be where you work with a Carl Palachuk, you work with a Harry Brelsford, right? If you're just not naturally wired this way, but you want to be thinking about not only, the whole customer satisfaction thing and net promoter score and all that, it certainly can go down that road. But I guess I'm more interested in maybe surveying our existing customer base, because, the cheapest sale you'll ever make is to an existing customer. And a predictive question, Carl, people don't do this, would be, what percentage budget increase have you forecast this year for technology?
Right.
Now that's very predictive.
Well, and it's good to know, because I always use the phrase that people have both sides of the conversation. Oh, my clients don't have any money to spend. Well, have you asked? Have you let them have their side of the conversation? No, you just decided that they don't have any money.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. Cool tool number 3, go to webinar. And people are like, yeah, but what if I don't have an audience, right? For a little 30-minute thought leadership piece. And guys, if you, let me just hand you something, folks listening to this. Come to the blockchain lecture, MSP Tech Talk, okay? Just come and take copious notes. Do a 15-minute thought leadership piece on GoToWebinar and just ping your existing client base, okay? You may have one attendee. Been there in my startups. I mean, literally, we got one person to come. Doesn't matter, because first of all, that audience size is invisible, so you look larger than life. Second of all, slap that sucker up on YouTube and make it public with some meaningful keywords. We want to be thinking about 10 keywords that might make it show up in a search, right? Like blockchain. But be the thought leader, and then, link off typically on your web page under about us. You'll have press and media or awards or whatever, but get that going, do that quarterly. And Carl, you look up after 2 years and you've got 8 webinars that, you know, the amplification effect, right? It makes you look larger than life.
Right. Especially if you can put links to all of those, and you can just look, you know, when you see somebody's website and they have 8 YouTube videos listed there, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's current, right? So you always stay current. I mean, that's why I'm going back to school myself, is to stay current and look current. Tool number 4, MailChimp. Use the email engine of your choice. I use MailChimp. And MailChimp, you know, has the ability to do A/B headlines. And, you know, Carl, you'd be amazed. I mean, I always do a silly headline and I do a serious headline because it's very interesting to learn my audience. They do skew towards serious. Okay, I'll warn you, they're not as fun as you'd think. But you know, we just did one the other day, last Sunday's paper, Carl. We talked about Dana Epp has a new main hustle. He exited Kaseya. He's at another startup. He moved home to Vancouver, BC. Well-known security guru. So we did I don't know, it's probably 700 words on Dana. And we played around with the headline, and we got a higher response when we said Dana's main hustle and Harry's side hustle, which I would put more in the silly category. But, you know, the data doesn't lie. You know, what can I say, man?
Well, and what's interesting about any A/B testing is if it works for getting attention there, it's going to work in Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever. It's going to be the same thing. And most of those now have the ability to do A/B testing as well. So, I mean, you can put out Facebook ads and say, here's 2 pictures, and there's only one difference between them. See which performs better. Then the next time you pick the winning picture and you test the headline.
All day, every day. Finally, Carl, HootSuite. Love HootSuite. My friends up in Vancouver, BC, just up the road. Yeah, always a fun city to go to. By the way, are you doing Vancouver in the next year?
I don't know. We'll see how well attended the spring shows are.
Yeah. Lovely city. So in any event, HootSuite. So HootSuite is best known for kind of lining up your Twitter feed. And people are like, Twitter doesn't work. Well, you know, here's the thing. It does work. And here's why. It's now gone beyond making you feel good about yourself. Because that's highly relevant content for Google searches. And the way you can see that is type in a topic, right, that would have some tweets surrounding it. It could be, you know, quite frankly, maybe you're curious, and rightfully so, you're curious about the 18th district last night in Western Pennsylvania. Fair enough. And you type that in, and Carl, have you seen some of the modifications in the way Google renders information? But they have tweets related to that. That's relatively new. And so tweets are now a poor man's SEO. Okay, so that's, and finally on HootSuite, to me, it's a single pane of glass. This is where I'm lining up my activity for my LinkedIn, my Facebook.
And they just recently added Instagram, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, you know, now be careful with this, because sometimes in our industry, sometimes people stop getting along, and those are just APIs. So, yeah, you know, don't get mad at me, okay?
Exactly. Well, Twitter just announced that they're going to cut down on third parties being allowed to post to their stuff. So I don't know what that means for HootSuite.
Yeah. I know, man. So Carl, I mean, those are kind of my updates. So we got a relaunch of Pivot in Q2, and maybe just to check off on that conversation, we'll socialize it. Just hold your horses. But we're trying to work with ISVs to work with their partners is one adjustment. And then the other adjustment is we're throwing a little bit more strategic conversation, or, you know, I call it therapy, because sometimes strategy becomes this Aristotle exercise of why are we here? And it does kind of drive me nuts to sit around and talk about why we're here, but it's okay. We have people that need therapy, okay?
Right, exactly. Count me in.
So that's my story. And I'm sticking to it.
So I want to ask one more question before I let you go, and that is, you mentioned one of your power toys is or tools is LinkedIn. Don't most people feel overwhelmed with LinkedIn? Because you're always told, oh, I can find whatever. The leader of every company in the world is going to be on LinkedIn, and I just have to go spend half an hour finding him. Spending half an hour to find a lead seems like a lot of work, right? Because that just gets them into the funnel.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's Biz Dev 101. I mean, so two answers. One for silly. A, we'll do A, B. A, silly. Carl, like today, unfortunately, Seattle has a conference every day. Right now is one of the large VMware user group conferences in the city today, and I'm unable to make it. But the point is, I never met a happy hour I don't like. It's BizDev 101. and seriously, you could find that individual you spoke about, and they could be somehow in the VMware universe, right? And you can kind of reverse engineer who they are and why you would want to be at that VMware user conference in Seattle today. So now on a more serious note, yeah, dude, it's hard work. I mean, LinkedIn is not an ACH money machine that transfers cash into your corporate account.
Oh, okay.
It's a tool. Okay. So I apologize if someone told you that. And then finally, Carl, with LinkedIn, the reason you want to invest in it, I mean, you could certainly have that feeling of overwhelmedness, but I'd turn it around 180 degrees and make it excitement, because there's a lot of investment going in with Microsoft's acquisition of LinkedIn and integrations into Dynamics and so on. So we're really kind of at the beginning of an era with LinkedIn.
Okay.
So
very good.
Either join the parade or sit on the sideline, brother.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today. I certainly appreciate it, as usual.
Yeah.
So always really good stuff. And we'll get some links up for folks. So you're going to send me those links. I'll put them down below, and we'll get this out as quickly as we can.
All right. Well, I'll end on, hey, go Mustangs. Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.